Bloodborne is the not-quite sequel to Dark Souls 2 that PS4 gamers have been dying for ever since it was first announced. But can From Software and Sony Japan Studios' hardcore action RPG live up to the hype? From the very start, developers and press alike have been claiming that Bloodborne has the chops to be even wildly more praised than Dark Souls and Demon Souls. So, after dozens of deaths and hours of sweating through bosses, is it any good? Yes. Oh god, so much yes. Now, Bloodborne is still very much a Dark Souls game. Even if you didn't like its punishing difficulty before, you probably won't like it now. This is a game where you must go in expecting to die, because failure is a learning lesson. I liken the difficulty to the days when Prince of Persia was actually hard. Even the first remake from the early 2000s, you would often fail, falling to your death, but you always knew it was some mistake you made, not the game being cheap. That's exactly how death feels in Bloodborne. It's combat now instead of falling. I've died probably close to 100 times or more playing through the mystery of this game, and not one time have I felt that the game was being cheap and handing me my death. Each time I've died, again, it's been very many times, I know it's because I got greedy, I wasn't focused, or I just plain didn't do the right thing at the right time. Bloodborne is certainly hard, but in a way that challenges you as the player and urges your skills to improve. Character creation is very similar to the Souls games. You pick one of a few backgrounds instead of classes, which determine your starting stats. I'd suggest a high stamina or endurance choice for players new to these sort of games, as the others are typically harder because you have less health and less stamina. You'll choose from a bevy of looks and fantastic-looking Elizabethan-era facial hair, or not if you're playing a female, then it's right into the breach. You play an outsider to the city of Yharnam, who has traveled to find a cure for a bloodborne illness. After a transfusion from a rather sketchy doctor, you awaken to find the city overrun with hideous monsters. Yharnam is plagued with an endemic illness that turns its citizens and animals into horrifying beasts. You must find your way through Yharnam and uncover the secret to these perils and survive. Yes, it's as gothic and gruesome as it sounds. The question is, are the horrors real, or are they a result of your treatment? Bloodborne is very much a Dark Souls game in its level design, as well as its combat. You'll find blocked paths and locked doors that you'll later open from the other side, creating much-needed shortcuts to other areas of the game's maps. Combat is carried out with the triggers for light and heavy attacks, but instead of relying heavily on blocking with shields, Bloodborne instead focuses more on dodging and a health regain system. If you're struck for a period of time, you'll be able to attack your enemy and regain some health that you've lost. It's not as easy as it sounds, and the player has to determine whether launching a counterattack is worth the risk of getting beaten up some more. The pronounced change to focus more on action over defending makes Bloodborne a far more interesting game in combat. You also have some new toys to play with this time. Players have ranged weapons beginning with a pistol or a blunderbuss at the outset, but you gain access to more as the game goes on. You'll also have transforming weapons like a hacksaw that can go from quick, short blades at one moment to a long AoE damage-dealing destructor with the press of the L1 button. As you play through the game, you'll unlock more weapons, find some in the world, and will also have to repair and upgrade your weapons with in-game currency. When you die, you drop your earned blood echoes, which serves as the game's currency and experience points to use in leveling your character. You can get back to the area you died in or fight a monster who's holding on to them to retrieve those blood echoes, but this can be tough because chances are you died for a reason. If you can make it to one of the game's checkpoints, you can teleport into the Hunter's Dream, which acts as your one safe haven during the madness of Bloodborne's story. It's here where you can level up your hunter by talking to a rather creepy doll with a mystery all of her own. You can buy some supplies and upgrade your weapons. The Hunter's Dream is also where you'll access the Chalice dungeons. These are pretty epic procedurally generated dungeons that change their layout each time you enter them. To open them, you'll have to combine a chalice with other items, which you'll discover as you play through the game. What's even cooler about these is that you can play through them solo or with up to 3 players in co-op or PvP mode. You can even save a dungeon you've unlocked and then share it with friends, and then they can do the same with you, basically giving you a near limitless stream of content to play with long after the main game is over. And yes, that's right, you heard me, there is PvP in Bloodborne, and co-op. Using the small resonant bell and beckoning bell along with a rare currency called Insight, you can call upon other players to help defeat the bosses. And as mentioned above, you can simply start Chalice dungeons with friends to take on challenges together. There's even NPC co-op, so if you see a sign and ring the beckoning bell, you can call in NPC assistance at times if you're having trouble with a boss. Note that we did this a couple times and the bosses are still hard. Don't worry, this doesn't turn Bloodborne into a Care Bear game. The PvP is a whole other beast. Once you've reached level 30 with a character, you can use the sinister resonant bell. This will transport you into another player's game where you can try to defeat them. It's nuts and very fun to go on the hunt. Fear not, you don't have to turn this option on, and it's not mandatory that you partake in PvP and become hunted. The goal is to defeat the enemy host before they reach the boss in a map, and balance is determined by which faction you've sworn allegiance to in the game. Now, I don't want to spoil the story, so just assume that you'll get the PvP options after some time with the game's main campaign. Like I said, you have to be level 30 before it's unlocked. I could go on about Bloodborne, but I won't. I'll simply say that it is one of the best action RPGs I have ever played. It's brutally difficult, but never cheap, and it's one of the most atmospheric games in recent years. If you fancy hard games, if you love a good, deep RPG that doesn't hold your hand the whole way through with arrows pointing you through things, then you owe yourself to play this one. It's a shame that it's only for the PS4, but frankly, Bloodborne is worth buying Sony's latest generation console just to play. Thanks for watching. I'm Bill Murphy. This is MMORPG.com, and yes, Bloodborne is that good.